Dawnbringer Chronicles. The mournful dirge of horns heralded the coming of the king's entourage. Through the mountain valleys as they came, scrabbling and howling, beating the ground with gore-smeared fists. At the centre of the procession lay the burly mass that was the Carrion King, sprawled upon a palanquin of knotted sinew, one hand slack across his brow, the other clutching at a finger-width hole in his chest. Even prone, Usheran dwarfed his teeming progeny. 2 attendants dabbed at their liege's wound with a rag of human skin, a wound inflicted by the wretched humans who had so treacherously spurned the hospitality of Usheran, attacked him even as they broke bread together. Grand Justice Gormain observed the display from a distance, twiddling a fleshy loop of his intestinal periwig, and striving to appear stricken by his master's predicament. In truth, he found the entire spectacle rather ridiculous. He felt an elbow in his ribs.
"I will behave, liege,"
the ghoul next to him said, snuffling and wiping a dribble of pus from his eye.
"Viciously attacked, and for no other reason than an excess of charity."
Gormain smiled wanly and nodded. At that moment he noticed Usheran gazing at him through narrowed eyes, and the Grand Justice suddenly found his voice.
"Regicide,"
he cried.
"Betrayal! Is there no low to which our foes will not sink?"
There was a general outcry from the procession. Gormain continued stirring them up, condemning not only the vile Sigmarites, but also the murderous vampires and Anullamaean brethren. Needless to say, he made no mention of his own dealings with said conspirators, nor his various other attempts to undermine Usheran's will. It was not treachery, he told himself. Usheran simply needed direction, lest he lose himself in his world of violent theatre. The Grand Justice had simply wanted to force his master onto the right path, the sacred path of Blessed Nagash. But that particular ship had very definitely sailed. The sound of crushing water could be heard. Ahead of the procession, the canyon path of the neck descended sharply. It led down to the lip of a great misty basin, fed by a waterfall. Off to the right there was a cluster of rocky teeth, and beyond that the fast-flowing river surged out towards the lowland valleys, just visible through heavy banks of fog. The wounded Usheran held up a trembling hand, and the procession halted on the shore of the lake. Gently, the king's attendant lowered his bier before prostrating themselves around their master's body.
"Glimlock!"
Usheran cried.
"Where is loyal Glimlock?"
A winged horror leapt from the boulder atop which it had been perching, and glided down to kneel before Usheran. Bloody tears streamed down the creature's face, and it clasped its hands together as if in prayer.
"My liege,"
it croaked,
"how may I serve thee?"
"Ye be our herald and general, faithful friend," said Usheran.
"Speak with the authority of the Summer King, and summon the banners to defend their lord's Demacy. The war of red errantry is upon us." "I shall paint the valleys with the blood of the betrayers,"
snarled Glimlock. Usheran bared his fangs in a red grimace and shook his head.
"Nay, our leal servant, not that. There is a sickness that festers in their hearts, these rogues and rapscallions. They know not what they do. Are we not a forgiving king, good Glimlock?" "You are, sire." "Then obey us now. If their curse is to be broken, these corrupt souls must sup from the hallowed waters of this very river, whose blessings will now mend our torn flesh. Only then can they return to the summer court to share our plenty and sup wine with their king.
Glimlock bowed deeply.
Thy will be done, my liege.
With that, the aberrant leapt into the night, beating its leathery wings and soaring away into the clouds, letting loose a howl as it disappeared from sight. Usheron hauled himself up, one massive clawed hand still pressed to the hole in his chest. With quivering hands he removed his cloak, letting the mouldering garment collapse to the floor. He staggered, appearing to swoon, but when his attendant scrabbled forwards to aid him, he held out a palm.
Nay, I have strength enough.
If Gormain had not been so painfully tense, he would have rolled his eyes. With slow, purposeful steps, the Carrion King dragged himself to the edge of the sacred pool and eased his immense bulk into its waters. Soon, all that could be seen of him was the crown of bone that protruded from his skull. After a time, he emerged, his great head peering back at his court like basalt rock.
Grand Justice Gormain,
he cried.
Join us, will thee?
Gormain licked his lips, feeling 1,000 jealous glances turn his way. Though he would very much have liked to have been anywhere else at that moment, he gingerly made his way down to the lake and slid in, his periwig draped along the surface of the water like a bloated octopus. Usheron's eyes followed him.
'Tis a sad truth that a royal court always seethes with betrayal,
said the Carrion King, his voice so low that only Gormain could hear. It no longer trembled with false pain.
Dost thou not agree, my loyal friend?
Quite so, my liege,
said Gormain.
Mine blood sister, Neferata,
Usheron sighed.
Ever doth the mistress of Nulmia seek to undermine me. Her agent, the foul Sekar, dost thou imagine she plotted alone to turn the Summer King into her petty blood bag, and then, when that failed, to murder him?
The Grand Justice knew he must choose his next words very, very carefully. Usheron smiled at him, revealing a row of knife-sized fangs stained brown with dried blood and scraps of flesh.
Not alone, your majesty,
Gormain said.
Verily, this must have been a scheme long in the planning, an alliance between Zia and Nulmia, sealed by a cowardly act of treachery. I already had my eye upon the creature, but even I, a student of just law, was swayed by her hypnotic wiles.
Usheron's smile only widened at this. Gormain winced, thinking that perhaps he may have overplayed his hand.
Blessed be that you survived, my liege, he went on, speaking too fast in his nervousness. Vile Sekar underestimated your boundless cunning.
My enemies often do,
said Usheron, that shark smile spreading wider.
It is good that I have such men as thee to count upon, good Gormain, loyal Gormain.
I am your eternal servant, sire.
Eternal,
heard Usheron.
Yes, thy wisdom and counsel will serve me well in the wars to come. No more shall I hide, Gormain. No more shall I wither in darkness while mine dear sister Neferata and that blackguard von Carstein indulge their every whim unchallenged. It is time for war and for glory. We hunger for it.
Usheron raised one swollen arm. With the foretalon of his other hand he peeled a strip of skin away, releasing a gush of dark gore. The waters of the lake clouded, turning from an azure blue to a muddy red. The pool began to thrash and stir. Fish broke the surface, ripping one another to bloody shreds. Gormain felt his own paralyzing dread ebb away, that cursed flicker of lucidity that forever plagued him, overwhelmed by the rich, stupefying ichor of his liege lord. The king's blood. Usheran tipped back his head and roared, a primal sound that soon turned to hacking laughter, and, unable to help himself, a rapturous Gormain joined him. The red stain was swept along by the current, running like spilt ink as the river carried it down through a winding canyon of jagged rocks towards the lowland hills, and towards the human settlement of Nathwaite's Crossing, whose inhabitants knew nothing of the seeping corruption, drifting ever closer.